5 Aquarius man weaknesses in love. An Aquarius man has many excellent characteristics that make him a wonderful lover, but you can learn a lot about the typical Aquarius mentality by looking at the weak characteristics associated with his sign. So, what are his weaknesses? An Aquarius man's weakness in love includes him being impatient, which makes him quick to anger, as well as being inconsistent and unreliable in your relationship. He is stubborn and refuses to compromise with you, especially during arguments. He is also an overthinker as a result of him distancing himself from you. Sounds simple enough, but we've just scratched the surface. Before we get into the details of his weaknesses, let's look at what it's like to date this man. Dating an Aquarius man. Aquarius men are impulsive. He can't stand rules or authority since he is free-spirited and restless, so he'd prefer to go with the flow and make his own choices. Your Aquarius man thrives in circumstances where he is free to express himself without having to answer to anybody else. His emotions arise out of nowhere, which may catch you off guard, but if he isn't careful, he has the potential to push you away and distance himself. Aquarius men are extremely passionate and motivated by a desire to succeed. He becomes obsessed with anything he sets his mind to, and when he sets a goal for himself, he is committed to achieving it. Your Aquarius man is all in when it comes to committing to a relationship, and he won't agree to date someone until he is completely and surely smitten with you, physically and intellectually, because he does not want to waste time on topics that do not attract his attention. It takes a bit for Aquarius men to open up to new people, but he will, however, become charming and inviting once he has grown accustomed to you. He can also discuss any issue or topic, which makes him enjoyable to converse with, but keep in mind, your Aquarius man thinks with his mind rather than his heart. He will end your relationship if it is no longer serving him, and he isn't going to stay in a bad relationship for any longer than necessary because he is aware of his worth and the importance of his time. Aquarius men are hard to decipher, and you'll never know what to expect from them because they're unpredictable, so you could question them about their feelings, but you never know when they'll share them with you. Your Aquarius man prefers to keep his feelings hidden, but you can be certain, though, that he would never spend time with someone he doesn't want to be around. As a result, you don't have to be concerned about him cheating because he won't be enticed to do something that would be destructive to your relationship. He has self-control and can make the best decisions for himself. Okay, now that you understand what this man is like to date, make sure to smash the like button. 5 weaknesses of an Aquarius man in love. 1. He is stubborn. Your Aquarius man is stubborn, so once he makes up his mind about something, it's nearly impossible to persuade him otherwise, and he refuses to make compromises or acknowledge that someone else knows more than he does. Because he always assumes that he is the brightest person in the room, his intellect can backfire because in his perspective, if he feels something is correct or you are wrong, it will always be that way. As nice and kind as they can be, Aquarius men are naturally stubborn people who may not appreciate being told that their acts are unacceptable, so it's understandable that this can irritate you on the outside. While believing in yourself and your thoughts as a positive trait, your Aquarius man can be difficult when it comes to managing his positions. So, discussions with him frequently can develop into pointless and frustrating fights because he refuses to recognize that his perspective can be incorrect or flawed. 2. He is inconsistent. One of the Aquarius man's weaknesses is his tendency to be inconsistent. You won't ever find him in the same spot twice in a row because he's always looking for something different. He is easily bored, which makes him unstable and unreliable, and because he gets bored quickly, your Aquarius man will find it difficult to keep your relationship steady for a long period of time. You could go from seeing him every day and spending all of your time with him a week to him not responding to your texts or phone calls the next. An Aquarius man respects his individuality and passionately protects his freedom, so he usually avoids making commitments because he does not want to be tied down. The Aquarius man is unpredictable and unreliable because he is so independent and unrestricted, and he acts before he thinks, and he does so in such a way that no one can hold him back. 3. He is distant. Aquarius men can be a very quiet person who is emotionally self-sufficient and distant, so you must prove to them how working with you will help them break through the barriers. Because your Aquarius man is such an impassive and emotionless sign, determining how he is feeling can be tough, and it's much more difficult to figure out what he's thinking when he pulls away from you and you're left wondering what's wrong. It could be a warning that your Aquarius man wants some alone time if he suddenly acts distant, and when he doesn't have any alone time to recharge, he becomes restless and uncomfortable. He thrives on routine, but he needs to be able to determine his own pace rather than being bound by someone else's agenda. So he may not invite you when he's seeing other people because he wants to maintain a sense of balance and show his friends and family that he thinks about them as well. 4. He is impatient. Aquarius men are rational thinkers with brilliant minds, which can lead to frustration and anger when others do not share or comprehend his rationale, so even if he is correct in his judgment, he will not be able to carry it out because he can't seem to focus on just one thing. Moreover, he can't sleep until he gets what he wants if he sets his mind to it, and he wants everything to be delivered fast and may not be willing to wait long. He holds himself to the greatest standards and intends to do everything in quick time, and he strives to not only be the best but if possible, be much better than the best. So, if you plan on getting in his way when he needs something, you should be expecting him to be less than sympathetic towards your passive attitude. 5. He is an overthinker. He is an intellectual and visionary thinker, and he is constantly coming up with new thoughts, but because these air signs are so concept-driven and intellectually focused, he can easily be lost in a flurry of overthinking. He may not be clear with himself or others about what he expects in a relationship, but he is certain about what he does not want. Furthermore, your Aquarius man has a proclivity for getting trapped in his head and overthinking the most unimportant and irrelevant matters. Aquarius men are always thinking about how things may have been different if something had happened differently, even before they reached a conclusion. He is also well aware that he frequently sets excessive demands, but he continues to prioritize exceeding expectations and overthinking. You'll also find yourself in a spiral of uncertainty once he gets caught up in a mental pattern of overanalyzing and seeking things to be concerned about. Aquarius man's weaknesses in love. Final thoughts. The weaknesses of an Aquarius man in love are: he is stubborn. He is inconsistent. He is distant. He is impatient. He is an overthinker. If you've enjoyed this video and want more, make sure to like and subscribe.